Stranger Things is packed with absolutely terrifying monsters, from the face-opening Demogorgon that started it all, to Vecna literally snapping people's bones. So today I'll be going over every single creature from the Upside Down, starting with the one that still gives me nightmares, the Demogorgon. The Demogorgon is the first monster we meet in Stranger Things, and honestly, it's still one of the most unforgettable. It's got this tall, creepy humanoid body is covered in slimy gray skin, but the real reason behind nightmares is its terribly awful face. It opens up like a flower, and inside are just rows and rows of razor-sharp teeth. This thing comes from the Upside Down and basically hunts anything that moves. People, animals, it doesn't matter. When it shows up in Hawkins, it kicks off the whole mess with the Upside Down, and starts the town's fight against these terrifying creatures. In Season 1, the Demogorgon is the one that takes Will Byers. It sneaks around super quietly and can appear out of nowhere thanks to the portals it opens between dimensions. These portals usually pop up in places where the barrier between worlds is weak, like the Byers house or Hawkins' lab. It's ridiculously strong, and regular weapons don't do much against it. In the end, it takes Eleven and her powers to take it down, but not before it causes total chaos. Even though it was a monster that was brought in at the very start of the series, the Demogorgon still holds the position as the monster that set the tone for everything that came later. Before we leave Season 1, let's talk about something smaller, slimier, and sneakier. Number 2, spine slugs. The spine slugs might be small, but they're one of the unsettling and most underrated threats in Stranger Things. These little slug-like creatures first show up in Season 1, and they're tied directly to the Upside Down in his infection process. We see one when Will coughs it up after being rescued from the Upside Down, and fans immediately knew whatever happened to him down there wasn't over. These slugs are slimy, black, and clearly alive. They were assumed to be early stage Demogorgons, or at least something closely related. In Season 2, we get a better look when Dustin finds Dart, who starts off as a small slug before quickly growing into a demo puppy, and then a full Demodog. That slug-to-monster transformation shows how fast and deadly these things can become. What makes spine slugs especially unsettling is how they get inside people. Will didn't just swallow one. He was being used by the Upside Down. The slug was a sign that the Mind Flayer had left something inside him, and as we saw in Season 2, that connection was far from gone. They may not be big or loud, but these slugs represent how the Upside Down spreads its influence quietly, invasively, and from the inside out. They're proof that even when you escape the Upside Down, it might not be done with you just yet. One slug's creepy, but what happens when the Upside Down starts building a monster from melted people? Number 3, the Spider Monster. The Spider Monster, also called the Flesh Monster, shows up in Season 3 and is hands down one of the most disturbing things in Stranger Things. It's not your average monster either. It's actually made when the Mind Flayer takes control of people, and animals, aka the Flayed, melts them into this nasty goo and then mashes all that mess together to form one huge, disgusting creature. The thing looks like it's ripped literally out of a nightmare, and it's got this giant spider-like body made of twisted bones, flesh, and muscle. It's basically the Mind Flayer's muscle on Earth, built to destroy Eleven and her friends. One of its biggest moments is at the Starcourt Mall, where it just wrecks everything, smashing through walls, tossing people around, and going full rampage mode. But what makes it even scarier is that it's not just a dumb beast, it's smart. It thinks, plans, and goes after the group like it knows exactly what it's doing. And here's the really messed up part. It's made from real people. You can still see bits of faces and bodies in it, which adds a whole tragic and horrifying layer to the whole thing. The Spider Monster is one undeniable piece of evidence that the Upside Down can turn anything, even people, into horrid monsters of pure, unrestricted evil. Scared? Don't be just yet. We still have a long way to go. Number 4, Demodogs. These monsters show up in Season 2, and they're basically the teenage version of a Demogorgon. They run around on all fours, have razor-sharp teeth and claws, and are totally deadly. Unlike the original Demogorgon, which was more of a solo hunter, Demodogs roll in packs, making them way more dangerous. They actually start off looking like slimy little slugs and slowly grow into these terrifying dog-like monsters. Dustin even finds one and keeps it as a pet for a while, naming it Dart. At first, Dart seems kind of cute in a gross alien way, but things go south very quickly once Dustin realizes what it really is. By then, it's already too late. One of the craziest scenes in Season 2 is when a whole pack of Demodogs attacks Hawkins' lab. They just tear through the place, killing anyone in sight. They might not be super smart like the Mind Flayer or the full-grown Demogorgon, but their speed, numbers, and teamwork make them seriously tough to stop. Watching Dart go from weird little slug to full-blown monster shows how fast these things can grow and how dangerous anything from the Upside Down can become. All of that chaos? Child's play compared to this next villain. He's not just a monster, he is the true mastermind of the Upside Down. Number 5, Vecna. Vecna shows up in Season 4 and instantly becomes the strongest and greatest villain in Stranger Things. Sorry, Mind Flayer. Before turning into this nightmare creature, he was actually Henry Creel, a kid with serious psychic powers who ended up becoming Dr. Brenner's very first test subject known as One. After Eleven defeats him in the lab, she basically blasts him into the Upside upside down, but instead of dying, he gets twisted by the place and transforms into Vecna. His look is straight up terrifying. His skin is all decayed and covered in vines, like something out of a dark occult grimoire, and now his powers are even more intense. Vecna has a super disturbing way of killing people. He gets into their minds, makes them relive their darkest, most painful memories, and then kills them in the most brutal way, snapping their bones and crushing their eyes. It's messed up. Each time he kills, it opens a portal between the Upside Down and the real world, his endgame, merging the two worlds into one massive nightmare. By the end of Season 4, we find out he's been pulling the strings all along, and he's got deep ties to the Mind Flayer and everything that's gone wrong in Hawkins. Vecna is horrifying, no doubt, but what if the Upside Down itself was alive at Tyr and watching you breathe? Number 6. The vines, or tendrils of the Upside Down. The vines, also known as tendrils, are some of the most unsettling parts of the Upside Down, even though they aren't a monster in the traditional sense. First appearing in Season 1, these long, snake-like growths cover almost every surface in the alternate dimension, wrapping around walls, floors, and ceilings like the world itself is alive. They don't just look creepy, they are alive and they're dangerous. These vines aren't just decoration, they're part of the Mind Flayer's hive mind and seem to act like the nervous system of the Upside Down. They can sense movement, react to touch, and even trap or choke people who get too close. When Hopper and Joyce go into the Upside Down, they're nearly suffocated by one of these things wrapping around them. In Season 4, Vecna is seen fully connected to these vines while in his trance-like state. They wrap around his body, linking him directly to his lair and helping him maintain control over the Upside Down. It's almost like they're the cords plugging him into the dark network that powers everything. And what makes the vines so scary is that they aren't aggressive in the usual loud or violent way that other monsters are prone to. Instead, they're quiet, patient, and always watching. You never know if they're just hanging there or waiting to strike. These living tendrils remind us that the Upside Down isn't just full of monsters. It is itself a monster. Every vine, every root, every twitching strand is a part of something much bigger and much more alive than we first realized. Enough of the quiet creeps. Let's get back to the gore, because this next monster, it's straight up disgusting. Number 7. The Hospital Monster. The Hospital Monster is first encountered in Season 3 and is easily one of the grossest and frightening things the Mind Flayer cooks up. It's made when two flayed people, Bruce and Tom, basically melt down into a big, nasty pile of flesh and bones, then fuse together into one disgusting creature. It goes after Nancy and Jonathan at Hawkins Hospital, and the fight is intense. This thing is crazy strong, super fast, and just won't quit. Even when it gets ripped apart, it can pull itself back together like it's no big deal. What really makes it disturbing is how human it still looks. You can actually see the faces of the people it's made from, like they're trapped in there. It's freaky and sad all at the same time. The Hospital Monster doesn't get destroyed, but it leaves a serious impression. It's a clear sign that the Mind Flayer isn't just about monsters. It's willing to twist and use real people in the worst ways to get what it wants. But that's not even the grossest part. Ever seen human flesh crawl across a floor like it's looking for you? Number 9. The Mind Flayer. The Mind Flayer first shows up in Season 2, and it's unlike anything we've seen before. It appears as this massive, swirling black cloud, kind of like a living storm made of mist and smoke. This form shows just how alien and powerful it really is. It's not just a monster, it's a whole other kind of being. Even though it doesn't have a physical body in this form, it can still control people and creatures, basically turning them into part of its hive mind. In Season 2, it takes over Will Byers, using him as a kind of spy in the real world. Will starts having creepy visions of the Upside Down and eventually gets fully linked to the Mind Flayer, which totally messes with him. This misty version of the Mind Flayer is scary not just because of how it looks, but because of how far its reach goes. Even without showing up in person, it still affects everything in Hawkins. Then in Season 3, it comes back, this time by taking over people and using them to make the Spider Monster, its big, nasty weapon. The Mind Flayer has a serious grudge against Eleven, and most of its attacks are aimed at her because she's the only real threat to its plan. With its brains, power, and the ability to turn regular people into monsters, the Mind Flayer stays one of the biggest and scariest threats in the whole series. If you thought the Mind Flayer was bad, wait till you see what it does with a steel mill and some melted humans. Number 10. Possessed Billy Hargrove. Billy Hargrove was already a conflicted guy before the Upside Down got its claws into him, but once he became possessed by the Mind Flayer in Season 3, he turned into something truly terrifying. Unlike the other Flayed, Billy wasn't just a background pawn, he became the face of the Mind Flayer's invasion of Hawkins, and one of its most ruthless enforcers. It all starts when Billy is dragged into the steel mill and infected. After that, he's no longer fully in control of his actions. His personality becomes cold, robotic, and violent. He starts recruiting others to be flayed, luring them in and delivering them to the Mind Flayer. He's strong, fast, and unpredictable, making him a serious threat to anyone who gets in his way. But what makes Possessed Billy stand out is that you can still see the real Billy trapped underneath. He has brief flashes where his humanity fights through this Mind Flayer's control. That inner battle becomes a key emotional thread in the season, especially for Eleven. In the final battle at Starcourt Mall, Billy makes a heroic last stand. After Eleven reaches him emotionally by reminding him of his mother, he breaks free just long enough to sacrifice himself to protect protector. It's one of the most heartbreaking and powerful scenes in the series. Possessed Billy showed us what happens when the Mind Flayer doesn't just melt someone down, but takes over completely. He was both villain and victim, making his story one of the most tragic in Stranger Things. Speaking of mindless minions of the Mind Flayer, it's time we take a look at a monster that attack in groups. Number 11. Demobats. Demobats make their creepy debut in Season 4 and add a whole new level of danger to the Upside Down. These things are like a nightmare mix between bats and piranhas. Small, fast, and vicious. Even though they're not as big as the Demogorgon or as iconic as the Demodog, Demobats are terrifying in their own way. They attack in swarms, using sharp teeth and whipping tails to take down their prey fast. One or two might not seem like a big deal, but when they come in groups, good luck surviving. What really makes Demobats scary is their ability to fly, which makes it hard to escape or fight them off, especially in the twisted maze-like landscape of the Upside Down. They're basically airborne guard dogs for Vecna, often seen circling his creepy, red-tinted lair like a living alarm system. One of the most unforgettable scenes involving Demobats is Eddie Munson's epic final stand. We've seen the foot soldiers, the flyers, and the freaks. But what happens when your neighbors turn into monsters? Number 12. The Flayed. The Flayed are seriously one of the weirdest parts of Stranger Things. They're not monsters in the usual sense of the word. They are regular people, and even animals who get taken over by the Mind Flayer. Once that happens, they basically lose all control and become part of its hive mind, doing whatever it wants. At first, they still look and act mostly normal, just a little off. Soon they start getting weird, aggressive, or emotionally distant. In Season 3, Billy Hargrove is the first major character we see get infected, and from there, things spiral fast, and he is different from other Flayed. That's why he was listed separately. The Mind Flayer spreads its control across Hawkins, taking over more people, and even rats. The Flayed aren't just puppets, though. They're being used for a much darker purpose. Eventually, their bodies literally melt into goo and get absorbed to build the spider monster. Yeah, it's as nasty as it sounds. The fact that these were once ordinary people just makes it even more disturbing. One of the wildest scenes is when Nancy and Jonathan fight Bruce and Tom, both Flayed, at the hospital. After they die, their bodies liquefy and combine into a bigger, nastier creature, which turns out to be the hospital monster. The Flayed really drives home how terrifying the Upside Down is. It doesn't just bring monsters, it turns people into them. And that's every monster from Stranger Things so far. But with the final season looming, we can bet the Upside Down isn't done with Hawkins or with us. So which monster kept you up at night? Let us know in the comments below.